Alan Ray, how is Nigeria? You're muted, but it's okay. You should have a picture of Nigeria and not the Golden Gate behind you, Alan Ray. You should advertise for the many beauty of your country. We wait for another couple of minutes and we'll start. Okay, so we expect a few more and we'll be starting. Thank you. And thank you, Joanna, for the email. Thanks. Okay, another minute. We're already 30. I'm expecting a few more, and then we'll start. Today's topic is going to be on the selection, the developments, and the retention of the right co-founders and co-investors. The two go hand in hand because typically your co-founder will be your co-investor, but in cases you might have a co-founder and on top of this have a co-investor. So we will discuss the two. And we just wait another minute and then we go ahead. Thank you for your patience. Okay, we have a question already. All the recording that we have, all the are recorded. Joanna Abi Abdallah, who is also on this call, you will get a copy of the slides and you will get also the link to the recording. So we have the recording and you'll have the slides, but you will need to fill the evaluation. So Joanna or Sheila, I don't know if Sheila is on the call, Joanna or Sheila will be sending you the evaluation, so you could give feedback on the value that you got from this webinar, and in case you need to have other webinars, what are the topics that would be of interest to you. In return, you will get the slides that I'll be sharing with you, and you will get also the link to the webinar. Okay, so this will be. This will do, and we do this on a pretty much on a weekly basis. So for those of you who are on my distribution list, you receive them. If you're not on my distribution list on WhatsApp, just send me. I'll write my WhatsApp number. You could send it to me, and I'll include you in the distribution list. You also have access to this through the Berytech. Through the Berytech website. They list all the events. So Joanna is in charge. Her department is in charge of the business support services. Roger, you need to mute your call. So this is so all of you. Roger, you have to mute your call. Okay, so these will be they're all recorded, and we have slides, and you will have this on a very regular basis. Okay, we're 47. It's a good group. I see whether there is any more questions before I start. So, Mark, to everyone, will you be addressing getting a co-founder when we are already running for a while? Okay, yes. So I mean, co-founders, you could get it. Ideally when you start, because you are able to shape this relationship together. But you will be able to also get it throughout. You might have started your company and you decided, and you will see I'm asking for companies to come with testimonials. One of the company has started with a co-founder and now decided to change co-founders and be working with another co-founder. So this process is a natural process because we're not always the same way when you get, unfortunately, it's more difficult, but when you get into a marriage, sometimes it's not the right fit, and it's the same thing with a co-investor or co-founder. Okay, I'm going to start. It's going to be fairly tight. I'm having three, let me basically, what we're going to do is, for those who have questions, We're going to leave the questions. I will stop the presentation about 15 minutes before the end. So you could ask your questions then, and I will take them one after the other. So I'm allocating, let's say, even 20 minutes time. So in an hour and 35 minutes, I'll be stopping. And we will go through the, I'll go through all your questions on it. Okay, so we will take it this way. Let me welcome all of you. So I know some of you are coming from, dialing in from Africa, as I've been involved with a number of social enterprises in both East and West Africa. I don't know if Ekua is on the call, but if she's on the call, it's her birthday, so you could wish her happy birthday on this. So we have, so what I'm going to cover is I'm going to cover a few points. So these are the questions. It's a long list of questions that we have. So the question is, why do you need a co-founder and a co-investor? I'm going to use one or the other because you will see its importance that you will have one and you will have the other. The two might be the same one or could have different profile. Now, what are the criteria that you use in deciding on who is the best co-founder for you and who is the best co-investors? The third question I'll go through is what are the steps that you need to take in order to make sure that you have the right one. This is a very important decision in your life, and you better make sure that you have prepared well for it. So, so quite important. By the way, all of you should mute your phone because it's in order to avoid any. So you mute the phone, and whenever you have the Q&A series, you will be able to unmute it. The fourth question I'll understand is, and this is the slides that Joanna have shared with all of you, is what is a founder's social contract? This is quite important. It will be, I'll share with you a set of templates that will be important in establishing the trust level between you and your co-founders and you and your co-investors. It's important for you. Roger, seriously, mute your phone, Roger. It's important. If not, we're going to, Joanna, can we mute the phone of Roger? If somebody could do it, it would be great. So, yeah. So we're so this is the force is on the founder social contract. This is quite important because this is the base. It's the base on the trust that you're going to build with your co-founders. I'll share with you what it is and how you can use it, and we will share with you other templates that will be hopefully of help to you. So it's up to you to decide. Then what are the key milestones and metrics? When you have somebody on board, it's like when you hire a person. You need to make sure that you have clarity in terms of the role, the responsibilities, the results that you achieve, that you expect from the co-founders, and also what are the rewards. These are the 4 R's. You will see it in the slides. This is quite important. How do we set it? And we as Berytech will be happy to sit down with you and with your co-founder or co-founders and help you in defining those metrics and help you defining these milestones, and help you also in setting up the foundation for you to be able to monitor them. This is what I typically do with all the companies that I work with, that I sit on their board, is that we have clear metrics, clear milestones, we review them on a quarterly basis, and this is important to ensure that we have the right discipline, the right transparency, and the right accountability. The 6th one is the best practices. So what you do is, I'll give you some hints, but most importantly, you're going to be hearing from 3 different founders of different companies who will be dialing in. Some have already dialed in, and this is quite important that you hear it from them. What works, what didn't work. If they have to do it again, how would they do it differently? So this is quite important. And then we'll end up with the Q&A session. Now, so it's a busy agenda. You're going to have 3 different speakers coming in. Providing their perspective on it. You'll have the chance also to ask them questions following their pitch. One of them is Sabah Korm, who is the founder of Regino. The other one is Lizia Oub, who is the founder of MAD. And the third one is, I need to find which the third one. I'm very bad. I'm trying to resolve these lists and webinars, but I will find the third one. So this is the topic that we're going to cover. Now, I'll start with this. It's not a quote. It's more of a statement. And it's fairly explicit and is a good summary of what we're going to go through. Selecting a co-founder and a co-investor is one of the most important decisions you will ever take in your business. You will be tied to these people for many years. It could be 10 years. It could be more than 10 years, and go through the best and the worst moment closely together. So it is similar to a marriage, but I would say that it's even more complicated, man, because you will be spending more time with your co-founder than you'll be spending with your husband or with your wife. You will make much tougher decisions together in terms of investments, in terms of divestments, in terms of hiring, in terms of firing, and you might end up with hundreds of staff instead of children in this case. So this is why the bottom line is that you better be well prepared to make this key decision and have a clear plan on how to make this marriage work. This marriage has to work. And the best prepared you are, the better you will be in terms of this marriage. So take it as a marriage, because it is one. It is, and you will see that a number of companies have failed, not because of a great plan, great business, great products, but if the co-founders don't work well together, this is a recipe for failure. And this is very, very much of a shame that is happening. But it's happening with a number of cases with many companies. Okay, so what is the whole topic? It's going to be, as I said, all of you will get a copy of the slides, so you don't need to take pictures. All you have to do is to fill the evaluation form, and that Sheila will be sending to all of you who have registered. If you haven't registered, I'll write Sheila's email, so you could send her your email. Joanna, maybe you could do this, because so you could put Sheila's email on it, so that for those who have not registered, they could reach out to her for the request. It would be great. Thank you. So we're going to focus on the different steps. I'm sharing with you a number of tools. I'll share with you process that will help you, hopefully, in terms of deciding who is on the hiring and development decision for your co-founders and co-investors. And you'll be exposed from different perspectives. You'll hear it from me, but you'll also hear it from others, and it's important that you do. Okay, so this is, now why do we need a co-investor? This is, most of you will be able to answer it. I would have had this as a discussion item, and maybe what you could do is when you look at this list, you could, I'll stop afterwards and see whether there are other elements that you want to add to this list. The first one is that it's always more beneficial to have different perspective in your investment journey. And I will share with you a bit what this investment journey is, and it requires different skill set. And there is no way on earth that you alone will be able to get all these skill sets together into one person. So this is why it's important to get this different perspective. It's important to get different skill sets when you go through the process on it. The second reason is that you share. You don't take all the load yourself. You share the load, and trust me, there is a lot of work to do when you set up your company. And those companies that we've been working with over the past 10, 15 years know how intensive the process is and how difficult and challenging it could be. So if you could share it, share your roles, share the responsibilities, and most importantly, share the stress that you have. Because if you take all the stress on your shoulders at one point in time, you might decide it's too much stress. So this is a second important point. The third, which is fairly important too, is that why do you want to take all the cost yourself? You know, it would be good, especially when you are into pre-seed or seed funding, where you might not yet have your MVP or your product or services finalized. There are expenses. You have expenses in setting up the companies. You have expenses in testing your prototype. You have expenses in terms of the missed salaries or the equipment that you need to produce the prototype or the MVP. And this it could be $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. Share it. So when you have a co-founder who is also a co-investor, this is a way to be able to share the risks that comes with it. The other reason is the mitigation of the risk. If I'm an investor and I look at your company and you're all by yourself, and actually we give very hard time, we have now a number of accelerators. For those companies where you have only one founder and not two founders and very little team behind it, we say, look, get yourself a team. Get yourself a team. Alone, you will not be able to do it. No matter how bright you are and how articulate you are, get yourself a team. And for us as investors, this is a way to mitigate the risk. So you better have at least one co-investor or co-founders behind you and a good team behind. If not, we will not believe that you'll be able to deliver on what you're saying that you do. Because again, it goes back to your skill set, no matter how much you have cross-functional exposure. And I'll share with you the next slide that you have seen. If you look at this slide, and a number of you have seen it already, each of these phases in setting up your company requires a completely different skill set. It could be analytical skills, it's going to be strategic thinking skills, it's going to be project management skills, it is financial management skills, it's investment management skills, it's about it's soft skills, it's hard skills, selection of the investment plan, selection of the investment partner, is the phase 8. So all of these phases require different skills. And don't tell me that you have it all. I don't have it all. And I've been in this business for 40 years. So it is, you need to get it. And if you want to do, and you will learn how to do it, but at least get people who are here to help you back up. So let me come back. So this is the opportunity to mitigate the risk. This is important. Multifaceted problem solving and strategic priorities. When you look at your strategic plan, you look at it, when you have it all by yourself, it's fine. But when you discuss it with other stakeholders, a co-founder or your co-investors, you will get different perspective. And this difference and the divergence in perspective is fundamental. This is what you need. You need diversity. The last thing that you want is a person that thinks like you, excuse me, act like you, talk like you, and behaves like you, and have the same risk profile like you. We don't. We want diversity in terms of the founders. We want diversity in terms of the investors, so that this diversity could help you address the problem that you're facing. Okay, the last one here is the benefit for cross-functional exposure. This is important. You need to be able to speak finance, HR, sales, marketing, technology, IP, legal, all this, and you need to have people who help you benefit. Now I'm going to stop here and then ask you whether you feel that there are other benefits of why you need a co-founder. So just raise your hand or unmute yourself and give me, and I'll take due notes that I would include in my revised set that I'll be sending to you. Any other benefits that you see in terms of having a co-investor? Just unmute yourself and then share the benefits with us. Very silent crowd. You're 64 people online. And
hi, Constantin.
Yes, hello.
Hi, it's Ravi Karibah.
Yes, hello. Welcome.
Thanks. So I've actually benefited from the fact that I'm a co-founder, and my two founders are both Oxford graduates who came up with the concept of Karibah Homes, but they needed an implementer.
Yes.
You know, it's really interesting for me having two people that are such high-level analytical thinkers. It's not a board. We call ourselves the executive committee.
Yes.
So I have like a nice stopgap between me and my board.
Yes.
It's like a sub-board, which I trust implicitly to tell me I'm an idiot or I'm doing well or whatever it may be. And it's so valuable, the trust factor, but that I have a barrier between my board and myself, that is the executive committee, who are basically the founders who play an active role, but at a distance, right?
Okay.
So apart from having lots of brains working and lots of involved other founders, having an interim, how do I describe it? An interim gap between you and your board, which maybe comprises of founders and not advisors. It really is helpful.
Very good. So I'll add this. I agree with you, Ravi. So to have this, if you want, buffer and the ability to be able to share and discuss strategic decisions before you go to the board, I think this is quite important. I appreciate, Ravi. Thank you. Keep your answer short because we have a lot of ground to cover. Anybody else wants to add to it?
Hello, Constantin. This is Emmanuel, Stanford Seed.
Hi, Emmanuel. By the way, Emmanuel is the head of Stanford Seed in West Africa. And our friendship goes back 5 years ago. I won't go into the details. Go ahead, Emmanuel. Thank you for being with us.
I just want to say that the co-founder becomes like a sounding board, and number two, also a confidant as far as the business is concerned. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate this. Sounding board and confidant. And trust me, you need to have this sounding board and confidence because you feel very lonely at times. Thank you, Emmanuel. Anybody else wants to add feedback?
Hi, Constantin, Patrick here.
Yes, Patrick, welcome.
The co-founder can cover different physical areas or regional areas. Like somebody could be in one country and the other could be in another country.
Yes, absolutely. You could have. You're right. You could have shared responsibility. It could be geographical or it could be functional. Appreciate this. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay, thank you. This is good feedback. I'll include it. And we're going to move on with the others. So I shared with you this. Now you've seen it and you've seen it again. And Emmanuel, who dialed in, and the first time I put it together was about 5 years ago when we were together in Ghana. And I said, look, this is and I kept the same slide. It's exactly the same slide that I've been using for the past 5 years. And this shows a bit the diversity in terms of the functional skills that you need. And this is different language. Each of this box is a different language. It's different skill set. Having your co-founder, having your co-investors, because they could zoom in on areas where you don't feel comfortable. And this is fine. This is fine that you don't have. I mean, to be able to come up and negotiate a term sheet or a good due diligence, and the due diligence could be sales and marketing, could be operational, could be production, could be finance, could be legal, or every one of it is a different language. Okay, so this is the, and then if you want, in terms of the gap, this is also the slide that you've seen at a number of times, and I continue using it. This is the article I published about a year ago. And if you look at the 12 M's, and you will see that each of these M's require also a different skill set. So if you look at the phases that we have, and you look at the gaps that your company and all companies will have areas where you're doing well and other areas where you're not doing well. And my recommendation to you, if you look at this list of these 12 M's and you say, Constantin, I'm bad in terms of setting metrics, or I'm bad in terms of defining my value proposition or my mantra on this one. So if this is your pain point, then find a co-investor or a co-founder that is here to address the pain point. So use this not only as a list for you to look at what are the key gaps that you have and how we could help you address those gaps, but use it as a way to decide, this is where I'm good at, and this is where I'm not good at, and this is where I need help. And this will help you in terms of defining who is the right co-founders that you need in your company. Okay, so this is one way of looking at it in this. Now, other reasons is we mentioned the complementarity skills to the team. A number of times I saw teams of people, they're all engineers, all similar backgrounds, all great analytical skills, great project management skills, but no sales experience, no marketing experience, no finance experience. I tell you, this is a recipe for failure. You need to make sure that you have a balanced skill set in your team if you want to attract investors, and if you want to have a much better time and better chances of being able to succeed. So complementarity is important, as I mentioned before. Network. You have your own network, it's great. But trust me, if you have somebody else who's a network which is as big as yours, it will be equally great. And if you have a co-investor that is also have a big network, and network is the name of the game. After, of course, your product, your value proposition, all your plan, having the right network and solid network is quite important. And you get network through the co-founder. Talents for succession. Maybe you're not the best CEO for this organization. And maybe your co-founder has a better potential to become the CEO of this group, maybe in 3 years or 5 years down the road. As an investor, always have somebody who could back you up. This is your number two. This is somebody that you trust blindly and has also potential to grow. This is quite important for attracting investors and also for simplifying your life. So this is a way also to brainstorm, like you, Emmanuel, have raised in terms of sounding board on your strategic view, the strategic direction, your priorities. You need a sounding board before you go back to your board and get maybe a beating behind it. So get the beating from your co-founder. It's much healthier to do this. So the discipline of timely and accurate reporting. So this is important. The co-founders, because in some ways, and the co-investors will say, look, this is not your own company. We are co-founders. We are co-investors. We are going to do the things in a certain structured way. And this, I think, is of great benefits to you, even if you're the original founder. In terms of the selection criteria that we have, the alignment in terms of the vision, the strategic priorities, this is quite important to make sure that you think alike, you act alike. Of course, the availability and willingness to commit for the long term. You're looking at a partner who is here not only for 6 months or 1 year or 2 years. This is a long journey, and you need to make sure that you have the support of the person for the long term. And most importantly, the willingness to learn, to grow, to adapt, and to take tough decisions together. So it's really, to summarize it, it is a marriage. It's a marriage that is over the long term. It's a marriage where you need to make sure you have complementarity in skills, but at the same time, you have complete alignment in terms of the vision of the companies, in terms of the priorities of the companies, and in terms of the the values that you would like to have. So this is in, sorry, I didn't know I was also on the video, so I get a bit upset. So you had a chance of seeing me being upset, fine. Now this is another way to look at when you want to define your co-founder or your co-investor. You could look at this balancing act. I call one is the duty of independence and integrity. The other one is the duty of openness. So you would like to have your co-investor and your co-founders being at the same time independent and high level of integrity. You need to make you need to have somebody who is completely open and being able to share what he likes or she likes and not. The duty of accountability. So this is clear, and then the duty of action orientation, and last one, the duty of mutual trust and respect. So this, I love this slide. It's taken from Building Better Boards, but what applies to these board members apply to your co-founder and apply to your co-investor. So this will be a way, whenever you're going to go, use this framework as a way to be able to assess whether the person that you have as the co-founders have these sort of, so how do you go about it? How do you go about building sustainable trust? Because at the center of this, it's about building the trust between you and building the trust with your co-founder and co-investor. The first thing is clarify what I call the 4 R's that I mentioned. The role of the person, the responsibilities of the person, the results, what are these results, the KPI, the KSI that you want, and also the reward. How are you going to compensate? How much of the part is going to be salary versus bonus versus sweat equity versus stock options? All these needs to be clarified upfront. The more clear this is, the much better the working relationship is going to be with your co-founder. So this is number 1, and we have templates to help you do this. Number 2 is you need to agree on the direction. You don't want to have somebody on board if there is no complete alignment in terms of the vision, the mission, the values of the organization, and also of the strategic priorities. So it's important that you align in terms of the strategic direction. The third one is the alignment on the milestone. You will have milestones, KSI, Key Strategic Initiative, and the co-founders will also have milestones. And you will have metrics, and the co-founders will have metrics. The clearer those are, and it's related to the 4 R's, the better it's going to be, and also to be able to review those on a regular basis. You also need to agree on a structured review mechanism. We have those. How often do we sit together? Do we do it formally? Do we do it informally? How do we communicate? Not only between both of us or the 3 of us, but also with other key stakeholders that we have. So this communication plan needs to be clearly articulated. Again, we have milestone on this communication plan, which is important. An escalation process. In case it doesn't work, I have a number and I act as a neutral party. And we have other people in our ecosystem that is here. When you have co-founders that don't get along, and sometimes it's a pretty heavy emotional debate, and they need to have somebody from outside to be able to give their perspective on it. And it's important to have this neutral party to be able to escalate and to realize at one point in time, we can get, we're not aligning. So if we want to align, let's escalate it and let's have somebody else involved in this and have the wisdom to be able to accept this and to reach out to somebody else who might be in a position to help. The number 5 is to complete and discuss the trust building framework. I'm going to show you a list of those. Now, some of you have seen it. This is some that I use in order to make sure that I build the trust with the person, trying to understand the person, not only in terms of a CV. This is much more in terms of how do you really know this person well, what are the values, what drives him or her, and I'll share with you some of these templates. And I encourage you, use the one that you feel more comfortable with, but these are all templates that will help you build the trust between you, your co-founders, or your co-investors. Then appoint a mentor or a coach to act as a neutral party. This is in case you really have big problem, in case of non-alignment of priorities or related decisions. And always aim for alignment. Alignment in terms of the one voice, the one direction, the one team, and I will add to it the one dream. So this is what we want. We don't want to start splitting and deciding. And the big problem that we have in successful family businesses is they end up not aligning and they end up splitting. And with the split comes with a lot of value destruction, which is a shame because there is a lot of synergies that is gone because of the non-alignment. So always aim for this alignment that you have. So what are these platforms or what are these tools that I'll check the time? We have the time. The first one will be Sabah, and I know she's on the call, that will be sharing. Okay, the first one is Maslow. That you have. So this is Maslow hierarchy of needs, and I'll share with you. The second one is the personal SWOT. You've known a company SWOT. I'm asking you to do one with your personal SWOT. And whatever applies to you, normally you would like to have it with your co-founder. And both of you will sit down, do the exercise, and share it together. So when you share it together, there is a lot of information that comes with it. It's not about your CV, it's not about the project that it's much more about who you are as a human being on it. You have one which is Jauhari, I'll share with you also, and then we have a coaching model that normally your neutral coach or a mentor will use in helping resolve whatever issues are between you. So this is a sample of the tools that I will share with you and go quickly through it. I don't want to dwell too much time on it because I want to give time to cover other ground. The first one is Maslow. Most of you are familiar with Maslow, and Maslow says is that your behavior today depends on which level of need you're trying to fulfill. So if you are here and he has this pyramid of needs, the physiological needs are the basic one. It's food, it's access to food, access to water, access to shelter. This is the basic. And we have a number of people in Lebanon. We have 50%, we call it the BOP. This is the bottom of the pyramid. This is the pyramid. The bottom of the pyramid are the people who are below the poverty line. And their main driver is fulfilling their physiological needs. And in a number of African countries, we're talking 60, 70% of the population is there. So it's important that this is the physiological. Then we move up safety needs. Safety needs, I want to have safety for me, for my children, for my parents, for my family. So make sure that they are in a safe environment, that there is no harm to them. So this is quite important. It could be health related, it could be non-health related. The upper level is social needs. Once you have fulfilled your physiological need or your safety need, you go into your social need. I want to belong to a community. It could be the Rotary, it could be others, it could be Social Seed, it could be so many communities that you have. It could be your church, it could be your mosque. You have so many different communities. And why is important? Because I need to belong. It's the sense of belonging which is important. It's having friends, it's having people, and we share. It could be even, Harley Davidson have their own community. They call it the HUG, the Harley user group. So you have different communities, and it's across different sort of needs. It could be sport related, it could be nature related, it could be green community. So this is the social need. Then you move to the esteem need. It's about recognizing what you are doing, recognizing what you are providing and contributing to it. And the self-actualization is for the few like Emmanuel that are here, where you have all your needs are fulfilled. And Emmanuel, don't take it wrong because I know you're smiling when I say this, but it's self-actualization is you're here to really think of what you want to leave behind. Why are you here? And it's very much not about you or your family or all the needs that you have. It's trying to see what is the legacy that you want to leave behind. For instance, in the case of Stanford Seed, is Bob King and his wife came up. This project about Stanford Seed is about self-actualization that they have. So what is this pyramid telling you? This pyramid is telling you that depending where you are or depending where your co-founder is in terms of the type of need that he's trying to address, you will have a better understanding of how to be able to relate to this person. So if I take it personally, I'm actually not in one position, I'm in different positions. I have an elderly father at 98. I have my elderly mother here who's 97. Both of them, for them, what I want is safety. I want to make sure that they are in a right environment in the last phases in their life. So a big chunk of my time is to ensure that this is happening. So part of me and my act is related to addressing the safety needs of the families of my parents, in this case, the kids being now grown up and being parents themselves on it. But part of me is also, in terms of social need, I love to be part, and one of the groups that we have here besides Stanford Seed, and I continue working with them, is the hiking group in nature. So this is quite important, and we go every Sunday and we do hikes, and this is like a group of friends that enjoy sharing this together, so it's social need. But part of myself, what I do here with Stanford Seed, what I do with a number of you that are working, is about self-actualization. It's trying to share as much of the knowledge of the bad experience that I had, of the good experience that I had, with as many people as possible, and hopefully help them in their transformation journey that they have. So this set of needs, this is an important one. So my question to you is, what are the needs that you are trying to fulfill? What are the needs that your co-founder or your co-investor is trying to fulfill? The more you know about this, the better you'll understand the person, and the more you'll be able to work with this person. So this is the message behind this slide. The other one that you could think is, it's a basic, and we have a whole webinar on it, is what is a meaningful life to you? What is a meaningful life? How do you define it? And you will see that there are 4 dimensions. For some of them, it's being healthy, exercising. This is the body, keeping your body in shape, eating well, doing great diets, going and, but for others, it's really about the emotional. It's about the emotional relationship that you have that are important to you, and a lot of your time is spent on this. For other people, it's about the job. It's about the challenge of the job. It's about the mind, the intellect. And for others, it's about your spirituality. It's about your faith. It's about, and it's a balance. I'm not saying that there is, but if you ask me back 20 or 30 years ago, the way I spend my time was completely different from the way I spend the time today. So my question to you, when you look at it, how do you spend your time? How are you spending your time? And depending on how you spend your time, what is important for you? Where do they fit in? And maybe a lot of it is on your body, on your mind, and not enough on your soul, on your heart, or the vice versa behind it. It's important for you to define what do you mean is a meaningful life. Define it, put it in writing, and then share this with your co-founder and your co-investor. And I know this is very touchy-feely discussion, but trust me, these are as important as putting together your financial plan, or as important as valuing your company behind it. So tell me, what are the dimensions for a meaningful life to you? Map those dimensions around these 4 axes, and then share it. And I'll be happy if you want to discuss it with me and you want to have feedback on it, be happy to do this. So this is another framework to establish trust. The more transparent you are, the easier it's going to be for the other person to trust you and to be able to work with you and to continue. So this is a second framework that you have. You choose the one that makes more sense for you. I'm not pushing one versus the other. Jauhari is one that I feel very strong about. It's it's about a window. So this window is what we call the arena. The arena on one side, let's take Emmanuel and myself. Emmanuel and myself, we met in March. I remember the date. It was March 21st. It was 2015. So he welcomed me when I stepped in Accra. It was the first time I was in Accra, first time I was in Ghana, actually first time I was in West Africa. I've never been to West Africa before. And I was at the time 59 and 58, it doesn't matter. So we had on it. So if you look at Emmanuel, and there are parts of Emmanuel that he's willing to share with Constantin. And Emmanuel is a person that likes to keep his feeling for himself. And there is part that he doesn't want to feel. So this is the known to others that you have. And then you have the not known to others. So there are part that he's willing to share with Constantin, and there's part that he's not willing to share. This is the not known to others. This is, and then on Constantin, he is willing to give Constantin feedback on what he feels I need to change. So what I need to change in terms of the way I work with the different companies, how I would do it differently. And there is another part that he is not willing to share because he's afraid that I might take it wrongly. So if you take the part where he's willing to share about himself and what he's willing to share with me, it's called the arena. This is Jauhari's window. This is the base of trust. And the more you could move into opening up, so if I encourage Emmanuel to open up, so the portion, the facade that he is not sharing, that becomes lower, or the blind spot that I'm not aware of in terms of myself, the more the arena grows. The more the arena grows, the more trust grows. And this is and to do this, how do you do it? It's about probing, it's about listening, it's about empathy, it's about being consistent with what you say. And Jauhari window, if you want to have, and at the end of the day with your co-founders, you need to build trust. And the way to build trust is to be able to understand what does it take for Emmanuel to open up and to about whom himself, what is important for him that he didn't want to share at the beginning, but hopefully after 5 years we are in a better position to do this, or to give me feedback that initially he felt more uncomfortable to do. So this is quite important for you to realize it. It's a very powerful network and a very powerful tool. And for those of you who wants to have more on it, I'll be happy to share this on a one-to-one basis. Now, this one is a very easy one to understand. The same way you have a SWOT for your company or for your function or for your departments, I'm asking you to do the SWOT for yourself. So tell me what makes you unique. What are these competencies that makes you a wonderful person that you are? What are those? Tell me also what are the areas that you wish you can develop. And all of us have areas that we need to develop. What are those areas? Share, put them on paper. And then tell me what you feel personally are the areas that you want to develop in terms of options that you have to be able to contribute more to this. Not about your own developments, but development in terms of what you could do in terms of either new job, new project, new challenges that you have in your life, setting a foundation, setting a charity, contributing to a charity. These are the opportunities. And then what are the risk areas? For instance, if we look today in Lebanon, huge number of risks. A number of people are looking at leaving the country, at leaving their job. They're unemployed, or they might be unemployed. So there is a lot of risk areas coming in. So it's important for you, the same way that you've done your SWOT analysis for the company, do the SWOT analysis for yourself. So, and the more honest you are about this, the better it will be. Not only to do it with yourself, but have the courage to share this with your co-founder. Ask him or her to do the same. And once you do this, there is something that happens. There is magic moments that happen because you are in some ways unrevealing. And for a number of people, it's uncomfortable. But if you really want to build trust, this is one of the frameworks to be able to do it. Complete it for yourself. If you want to share it with a mentor, this is the role of the mentor. Happy to sit down, and we know a number of mentors that are here, happy to do this. But most importantly, have your co-founders do it and then share it together. And this is quite powerful in terms of building trust. So this is the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Very clear, you know it, and nobody better than you is able to answer this. But what I try to do, don't what I call trying to make it look nice. Make it sincere, make it spontaneous, make it yourself, because this is, and I know it's difficult at times to share weaknesses or to share areas of development. It's not easy, you know, but a true leader is a person that have no worries about sharing the vulnerabilities that he has. And the more he shares or she shares, the more he's going to be impactful on the team that he's leading. So this is quite important that you, so this is another of the templates. Now there is one, it's the law of the Dharma. Some of you are aware of it. Each one of us have something, one thing that they do, and they do it extremely well. And when they do it, this one thing, they're completely aligned. They feel that, and my giving these webinars for me is in some ways, it's the one thing that I love to do it, and hopefully you feel it. You feel it in terms of the voice, and you feel it in terms of the body language that you do. You feel it in terms of the desire, the profound desire that takes place. This is one thing that I love to do. And even if I have to pay to do this, I will pay to do it. And I've repeated it a number of times on it. And it was not maybe necessarily the case in other jobs that I had in the past that you do. But there is one thing that you do and you do it well. It could be cooking, it could be dancing, it could be singing, it could be hiking, it could be whatever it is. What is it? So I'm asking, what is this one thing that makes you unique? Now, if you align it with your spirituality, and if you put it to the service of others, this is what the law of Dharma is. This is, if you want, in terms of a summary of what a fulfilling life is discover the one thing that makes you unique. Try to align it with your spirituality, not necessarily religion, but spirituality. And then if you put it to the service of others, there is also magic moments that take. So my question to you is, what is the law of Dharma for you? What is this one thing? And how can I help you in terms of developing? And this is a sort of discussion that you need to have. Now you're going to say, Constantin, this is a lot of touchy-feely. You are right. It's about soft skills. You are right. But if I trust, I went to business school, if you went back 40 years ago, close to 40 years ago, if you ask me what are the courses that were most meaningful for me now and throughout my life, were the courses on soft skills and not necessarily on hard skills. Now the hard skills allowed me to get the jobs and to get the positions and to get the, but the impact, if you ask me to reflect back 40 years, it was on those sort of templates that we have done that were important. And there is one course which is well known but you have several. Negotiation is one, interpersonal dynamic is the other one, and you have a number of other courses. Okay, now this is the one that Joanna shared with you. This is what we call a social contract. This is a social contract where we're getting not so much now to the EQ side, we're getting to the IQ side. So this is not about the soft skills, this is about the hard skills. You also need to compensate with your hard skills. You need to put together the different issues, and you will see from those issues, some are very important to you, others are less important. So my question is this though, please, I put you a certain list, you know, Joanna, and I shared it with you on it. Now it's on future direction, on financial issues, on working relationship, on any other expectation that you would have, which is important to you. So you need to put it in writing. And you need for your co-founder or your co-investors to, and then you discuss it. And after the discussion, you reach an agreement for each one of these topics on what is important. If there is divergence, why do we have divergence? How can we get alignments? And this exercise is a difficult exercise to do. And you might want to have facilitation, and again, we'll be happy to facilitate it. But trust me, with your co-investors, with your co-founders, it is important that you go through this process. And we are happy to share, to review it with you and with your co-founders, sit down with you once you have done it. But this is important to get it. This is, if you want, it's the social contract is the moral, if you want, obligation of how you want to behave and on these key decision-making that takes place. Le pacte des actionnaires. I don't know if Liz is on board, she's going to discuss it. It's very important. So pacte des actionnaires in French is important. It's not a shareholder agreement. It is not. You will have the shareholder agreements. We'll go through the legal terms, the financial terms, the capital structure.
Papa, arrête de crier, je parle.
Okay. Parash, please mute. Please mute. Thank you. So you have. So this is an important act. This is the social pact, and this is quite important. What is the recruitment process? Let me check where we are in terms of time. Sabah, are you on the call? Are you already on? So if on, mute yourself.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Sabah. All right, so we will, I'm going to cover this and I'll pass it on to Sabah. So this is in terms of the, so we're going to have 3 people sharing. So this is sharing their experience on it. Sabah is the first one. She has worked with, Sabah has a fairly extensive professional experience in the corporate world, working for multinationals across the region here, but also in Europe. And she has created and launched a business in the food safety area, and she has worked with a co-founder. And she's now in the process of looking and evaluating another co-founder. I'll let you describe it, Sabah. Before I do this, let me go through this slide. So how do you go about recruiting? First is you list who are the potential sources. And you say, Constantin, how do I list? You have your, what I call the 3 F's. You as a founder, your family, your friends, all have potential ideas about what they could do. I'm currently hiring for a position. Some of you have received it. We're looking for an investment manager that would help us on this WE4F, the water, energy for food, USAID, and we're looking for an investment manager that would get, where do I go? I started with the family and the friends, first of all, before putting it on LinkedIn, before putting it on others. The ecosystem. So if I look for this position, it's an important position for us for 4 years. In case you know anyone, we'll be more interested to talk to him. I always use the opportunities to so this is an opportunity to become the head of investment management for this USAID program for 4 years. That will be covering 10 countries from Morocco to Iraq. The foundation, the base is in Lebanon, and we'll be working with 100 social enterprise, help them scale, provide them grants, and being able to help them get debt and equity funding. So in case you know of someone, feel free to reach out to me. Now, in the ecosystem, you have advisors, you have mentors, you have investors. They're also potential co-founders. You have other founders. They have their own contact, and they will tell you, and you have, I mentioned the advisors, business angels, the media, you have a lot of information available on, and your own network that you have. So you first source it. You source it in terms of who are sitting, who are the co-founders of other companies, who are co-investors in other companies. then wow, this guy has a wonderful background. Maybe I would like to. So this is the first thing you need to do. List your potential sources. Then you need to define what are your core values. Before you go and shop around, define what is important for you and define the trade-off that you are willing to take. How do you do it? The previous slide. Go back to your previous slide. What are the trade-offs that you're willing to take? Not only in terms of business, but also in terms of your personal thing. Define it, because there is no point of going to find a co-founder if you haven't gone through it. Do your own SWOT. And whenever you're going to find the right investor or co-investor, make sure that he or she would do also the SWOT. And then finalize your selection criteria. I gave you a list. You might have a different list, different values. What is important for you? Maybe the sector expertise is critical. Maybe you want to have somebody as a technology guru, it's critical. Maybe you want to have somebody as an e-commerce guru, it's critical. You define what are the selection criteria that you need. Then you need also to define what is the package. Don't try to get in here. Are you willing to give sweat equity? Maybe you don't have cash today to pay a big salary. Maybe this person is worth $10,000 and you only have $2,000 that you could pay. How are you going to do with the $8,000 remaining? Is the person willing to consider having this as stock options or having this as sweat equity? And you start by 3, 5, 10% of the company if you find the right co-founder. This package needs to be for you discussed. And if you need help again, come back to us and we'll be happy to tell you, because we've been advising a number of others who are looking for co-founders, did not have the means to be able to pay them, but wanted to have quality people behind. But you need to think about it. You cannot go and approach if you didn't have answers to these questions. Review and complete your partner's contract, social contract. This is important that you need to do. And then most importantly, after the interviews that you have, is you need to do the background check. Fundamental. And most of the people forget about the background check. We fall in love with the person, we decide this is the right person, and then suddenly we realize that there is a major pain point that we were not aware of. But if we have given the call to his previous boss, the previous boss would have told you this is the problem that I was facing, and this is why the person had left the organization. You know, when I worked, I always use this anecdote with Al Ghurair Group for several years. Abdelaziz himself, who is the group CEO of Al Ghurair, called every single one of the previous 10 managers that I had in my entire history and talked to every single one of them. I think it's overdone, but he did it. He called every single one. Normally you look at the past 2 or 3 managers. He did it. It was critical for him, and he wanted to have the view not from 1, not from 2, not from 3, and he wanted to have the view from about 10 different. And I encourage you to do the same. You know, if the person doesn't have a big track record, it's okay. Who are the people who knows him best? Being it schoolmate, university mates, colleagues, sport mates, whatever it is, church mate that you have, so find out about it. You need to know, because this is a wedding. It's a marriage. You need to get there, so this is quite important. I'm going to stop at this stage. I'm going to stop sharing, because I know that Sabah has shares on it. So we are 67 now. I look at the list, so this is great. Sabah, can you go online and we could see your nice face?
Yes.
Joe, we always see your nice face. So I have Joe and Sabah next to each other. Very good. Hi, Joe. Very good. Sabah, I'll mute myself. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thanks, Constantin. 1 second, I'm sharing my desktop and I'm putting myself on video. It's only because of the bandwidth that I avoid. If there is any interruption or if it's not clear what I'm saying, I should have to take off the video, but hopefully it should work.
Thank you.
Okay. Advise if you see my screen.
Sabah, we do. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Sabah Karm. I'm going to introduce to you our company, Regino. Our slogan is Tracing the Dots. So what we do, we are a real-time end-to-end traceability platform where we onboard brand owners in the food industry to log every single details of the incidents across the supply chain, so that we collect and we link information together, as we say, from farm to fork. So this will create transparency across the supply chain, so people will know what they are eating, ingredients, quality, and the journey of the product, of the ingredients within a product across the supply chain. And this will create trust. It's a common practice in Europe and in the United States, in Northern America. It's not only a practice, it's a rule, it's a regulation. They have to provide, any manufacturer has to provide data of the product across the supply chain. Regino is the first platform in the Middle East and North Africa region. We have found lots of initiatives trying to approach traceability in an offline way. So there are applications that some companies are using, but they don't provide the trust, because the company or the food owner, the food manufacturer, he is the one controlling these data. So he can put anything and provide any report. While on the platform, and as I said, it's a real time. So data go on the platform real time. So there is a trust that is created in these data. So from farm to fork, we ask upon every incident the 5 W and H. So the who, the what, the where, the when, why and how of everything happening from farm to the consumer. Our target is the brand manufacturer, because they own the brand, and they care for their credibility and for the brand image on the market. So they are our target, and they are responsible in case of contamination, non-conformity of a product. They are the ones responsible and accountable for the issue. So they are our target. So we are a B2B model and as a business model. So we started with Berytech Agritech Acceleration Program a while ago. So we are of the batch 2, and we focused on creating this innovative and advancement in the agro-food tech services. So we went through the program, through the phases, and we ended up by establishing the company. So we are a software as a service model. So we are on the cloud. We integrate new technology. So we are looking at blockchain integration, at GS1 standards across the supply chain, so that we have a unique and sustainable platform for our customers. We allow brand owners with a solution to comply to regulations in advanced countries in like Europe, like the United States. So they can go to this market. We have realized that in this market, in this part of the world, export in the food industry is not easy when they don't have traceability reporting. So that's why we focused on this part of the world, on the MENA region, because in this part of the world, regulations is just coming up. So it wasn't applied before, while in regulated countries, it has been there since almost 15 years now. So to tackle the topic of today, Lara and I, we are the co-founder of Regino. I focus, in fact, Lara and I, we met when we were doing our executive MBA, and both of us have studied computer science. And while I shifted in my career to business and management, Lara was still focusing on product and project management. So when we started thinking what we can do together, we found that we were pretty much complementary in terms of skills. But above that, I mean, skills was very important. I mean, competencies, what I'm good at, what she's good at. We didn't think of it much, to tell you the truth. I mean, now looking at Constantin's slides, it's quite good to see that we were indirectly applying these rules without really thinking of them. So Lara and I, we found certain complementarity between us. We're not coming from the same, let's say, environment or social life. I have my life, she has her life, but in business, we found ourselves very complementary, and there was this chemistry where we were able to work together. And for 2 years now that we know each other in terms of work, I can say very easily, we never had a major issue. We talked about everything. And I remember in one of the boot camp, when we were in the boot camp of the Agritech, the first one, we were in Faraya and we spent like few days together. We said that we are promoting transparency. The main thing among us is to have transparency. And that was the basic of our collaboration together. So we were talking about everything, whether she's concerned about my work as business development, as marketing, or I'm concerned about the product she's working on. We were totally transparent and sharing everything. And I think this was quite inspiring for others, because I remember many people who commented that we are a perfect team. However, what happened is that with the revolution and the COVID-19 challenges, where we had several issues. We had issues, we were about to get investment and we didn't get it, everything stopped. We were already going to Dubai, and not because of the revolution, that's the COVID-19. So it's, even within the revolution, I went like 3 times to Dubai. We were about to set up the company in Dubai, and we got some good attraction for investment in Dubai. Also, it was on hold. We were supposed to recruit 2 profiles, key people in the team for this year, and this is on hold too. So everything is almost on hold. What is not on hold is we reviewed our priorities within the confinement, and we said, let's focus more on advancing with the product, with the 2 customers that we have. And this is what we're doing right now. So we are focusing more on features. Some features were supposed to finish by the end of the year are already done now. But also what happened is Lara, because of her family situation and because of dollar issue, revolution, and lately the COVID confinement, she decided that she would rather, and she would feel more comfortable to go back to a salary-based, in a comfortable way. And we discussed this back in January, and I said, I cannot put myself in your shoes, but I understand, because maybe my situation in life allows me to take more risks, while her situation in life will not allow her to take more risks. So this is where Lara decided to step out. We're still in the process. So what we did, in fact, is that we agreed that she will also identify with me the person with the skills and the profiles that would take her role, not necessarily take her founder role, but her role in terms of implication and responsibility in Regino. And in fact, we were looking at 2 sides. I was looking a lot at the PIP side, that I call it PIP, which is personality, interest, and preferences, while Lara was more looking at the skills, knowledge, and abilities. So today, we have interviewed so far 4 persons. We identified 1 person with whom Constantin knows, because I pulled Constantin in to support me in how and what we can offer this person, especially that she wasn't with us in the journey of the last 2 years. So she's coming into a new operation. She doesn't see it yet eye to eye with us, but at least she has the will to go into this operation. So now we are a little bit in a process of finalizing certain points to see if she will agree on. Because we don't have the budget to give her a salary, and we agreed, we were discussing, I can't say we agreed yet, but we're discussing a half-half formula, like having a part of it salary and part of it sweat equity, and we will evaluate with a 3 months, like a trial and evaluation. So this is where we are, and I think Constantin, everything you said today, I took even some notes, because you inspired me also in certain things, in how to use them, in determining if the new person, and it's a she also, she's a lady, if she is the right person to come on board with Regino. So this is it.
Sabah, thank you. I'm going to, first, I appreciate you being open. I know this, a lot of it is really personal information, but probably by doing this, you sharing it, and I'm sure that a number of the audience relates to the process that you're going through. Let me ask you one question. Now, knowing what you know, it is, if you go back to the hiring decision on who is for you, you think that you mentioned the personality, the interest, and the preference. What in your mind would be the must-have that you would like to have in your next co-founder? So what in your mind would be top of the list? Can you share it with us?
Yeah, in fact, we even discussed this with the ladies that we targeted now. In fact, the first thing is about, we wanted to find the chemistry. If we can work together. And when I say chemistry, it's not about feeling. It's really about how we can collaborate together. Is she someone very pretentieuse? Does she see herself like above everyone because she knows? These kind of things that we were trying to, we wanted someone modest. We are a startup, so there is no team management at the time being, so she needs to be on her own also. Taking responsibilities is very important. And maybe the model I had with Lara, I was trying to find in her what was good in Lara and if it's replicated in her. So also I wanted to see certain values, because in our business plan, we have put the values we want to focus on, and these are part of this. This would be part of the discussion with anyone we recruit, like customer focused, like also transparency, like trust people around her, because these are our slogan. We promote transparency and trust across the supply chain. We need to be transparent among each other because we know the value of transparency and trust, and we wanted this among us. So these are the ones that are that we look at. When it comes to skills, I can say that 3 out of the people that I interviewed, they have the skills. They had the skills. They have good experience. They have good knowledge. We are looking at someone technical, so they have the technical knowledge. But we choose the persons that we found close to us in terms of personality and you know, and the interest.
Very good. Sabah, last question. Now, you've been working with Lara now for several years. If you have to do it again, what would you have done differently?
From a co-founder agreement,
co-founder perspective,
maybe I would have. I never thought of it before, but today I say I hope we were 3, not 2.
Okay.
I think
and
2
why
is.
3? Why 3?
3 because the level of sharing of information that Lara and I had was very good. Now, in this period of time, I see myself alone, thinking alone, and try. Still, Lara is. I share with her a lot of things because she knows the ins and outs of everything, of the project, of the thinking, of the process. But still, it's different when you take a decision. And I feel today I have to take that decision alone, which is okay. But if we were 3, it would have been much easier, I would say.
Very good. Sabah, thank you. Stay with us if you can, because we're going to take questions in about 15-20 minutes after Liz would have presented. Appreciate your openness as usual. Appreciate your friendship and the willingness to always share your experience. And I'm sure that the team feel exactly the same way. So thank you, Sabah, for this. Thank you.
Thanks.
Sabah, I'm going to ask you to stop sharing the screen so that Liz, I'm going to introduce Liz. Liz, you might demute yourself on it. So Liz Yacoub is the co-founder. They have 3, talking about now with Sabah here, and I would let her describe. They co-founded, 3 of them co-founded MAD. MAD is a company that went through our ecosystem. They raised equity capital from different sources, from IM Capital, from Cedars, which is the Business Angel Association that some of you know. She also have raised funds from business angels, and she's now in the process of raising another set of funds on it. And she has been successful despite the crisis, despite the pandemic, and to be able to secure funding and to be able to continue and maintain the focus on her platform, on the customers, and on the team. So Liz, welcome. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
Are you sharing slides, or should I ask you questions? How do you want to take it?
If you want to have questions, would be great.
I'll share. So Liz, maybe what you want to do is you want to describe to the audience, some of them might not know you, in terms of the company, how you started, why you started with these co-founders, and a brief understanding of the service that you're providing. Thank you.
Okay. Well, as Constantin said, we're 3 co-founding partners, and the advantage we had is that we knew each other before starting the company. So basically, MAD is kind of a spin-off of the business we had before. What we do is we have a collaborative entertainment marketplace. So it's a platform that connects and matches artists in music, arts design with brands and with the millennials that we call the youth generations. So basically we started end of 2016, and actually we developed the platform quite quickly because we did it in a summer. We had the idea while working together on a concert, actually, and because we were very convinced of it, we quickly developed the first, let's say, the beta form of the platform, and we quickly looked for investors. So within the first quarter of the business idea, we started looking for funds as well.
Very good. Yeah.
Maybe to give you an overview of why we decided to start it together, and why 3 and not 2, as I heard Sabah mentioning that she wished they were 3 instead of 2. I actually started my first business alone. I founded a marketing outsourcing company in 2008, and I was alone. I started it because I had a clear vision of what I wanted to do, where I was heading, and it was good. But it's important to know that it's a very long, tough, and bumpy journey to be an entrepreneur. So it can be very lonely at times. And for one thing, I felt it very quickly when I started working alone. And second, I developed the first company I started when my sister, who was my business partner at the time, joined me in 2013, because we managed to branch out in Lebanon and the Middle East by doing so. So that's the first thing. But in the meantime, we started working with several clients, several industries as well, including the entertainment industry. And we started working with Bruno Weitzman to develop and market 2 of his TV shows. So it was a very interesting collaboration. And when I initially had the idea of MAD, for me, it was obvious that it was going to be the 3 of us together. So we just talked about it very quickly, and the 3 of us were convinced. So we started it.
Great. Look, Liz, I know that you're close. All 3 of you, you know each other extremely well.
Yes.
So all these templates in terms of building trust, you don't need them, because one is your sister and the other one is very close to you. So what I'm interested is in situations where you had misalignments on it. So how do you go about reaching this alignment again? So how do you bridge potential gaps that you have? It would be appreciated. Rawad, if you could mute your call, it would be great. Rawad, can you please mute your phone? Thank you.
So
Go
yes,
ahead,
as
please.
you mentioned, we know each other very well, but it's important to understand that we're very different, really different in terms of experiences, but also skills and, let's say, characters. So a good thing about being three is that there's always someone who, you know, decides and splits the votes, because obviously quand c'est un pair, it's better. So that makes it easier. Sabah mentioned transparency, and it's extremely important because if you want, there's always, everyone has his point of view and everyone has his own ideas, because you might have a joint strategy, but the road to get there can be many. And so every time you have a bump in the road, when everything goes well, it's not tough. But when it goes sour, that's when things become bumpy and difficult. And it's easy to blame or take sides or say, I told you so. Luckily, in our case, I think we never look back except to learn and iterate. But to go back to what makes it important and yet easier, first of all, I mean, not just myself, but the three of us, it's important to disagree. It's important to agree to disagree. And for us, we're three different generations, and we're French and Lebanese, and believe me, you can hear us talk very loud when things go bad. But at the end of the day, when you decide, it's important to stick to your plan and try it, test it, and then start disagreeing again in case it doesn't work. So that's the first thing. Don't be afraid to, I mean, be perfectly honest and be tough, because if you can sell it internally to your co-founders, the tougher they are, the easiest is going to be to sell it to others and to implement it as well. So they challenge you a lot, and I think that's very important.
Very good. I mean, you've been together now on this venture for probably close to 4 years.
Yes.
If there are things that you would have done differently, knowing what you know today, I mean, one of the discussions that you and I had was on this pacte des actionnaires. So what would you do, what you would have done differently over the past 4 years? And maybe you want to elaborate on this pacte des actionnaires a bit. Thank you.
Yes. Regarding pacte d'actionnaire, obviously every time you have a new investor, you have a shareholders agreement, but before that, when you have the idea of the venture and you say to yourself, I'm not going to do it alone, I'm going to be working with XYZ partners, it's important to draw a pacte d'actionnaire, the founding partners. I didn't know that. I heard about it 3 months after we started, and I realized that it would have made our lives easier, because obviously when you're a new venture, you take things, I mean, we're very passionate, so maybe it's a temper as well, but I mean, that your venture is so important. It's your baby. And at the same time, if you're starting a new venture with someone, it's really, I mean, it's like marriage. So obviously you're going to get stuck together for a while. So it's very important to set the basics and the foundations very early ahead. And for us, I think if we had this, you don't even need a template. It's just know that you can draw it on a paper and decide on who is going to do what, but who brings what on the table, and how much you're going to be committing to the venture itself and on which aspects. Because at some point, for instance, I'm the CEO, but we're all very involved. But I always consider that I'm responsible of everything and I'm accountable for everything. Whereas it's not necessarily the case of, let's say, a CTO who doesn't have by default business development skills. So it's important to have that on paper and also to allocate your capital based on that, not just how much you're bringing in terms of work, skills, network, but brain and connections, but also how much you'll be committing to the company itself when the venture gets bigger. So yes, that's one important thing.
Okay. Roger, a note, please mute your phone, Roger. Tu es en train de prendre ta tasse de café ou ta tasse de thé, tout le monde l'entend. Donc, si tu peux muted, it would be great. Thank you, Roger. Voilà, ça c'est Roger. Liz, is an old friend, so I could. Liz, another question I have now. A number of people on this call might set up and are looking for co-founders on it. So, is there one or two tips that you would like to share with them in terms of, in the process of selecting the right co-founders, what will be the one or two tips that you would like to leave them with?
Well, first of all, I mean, how to find is something, and who to look for is a first thing I think everyone should keep in mind. I'm a strong believer in gender equality, especially in the co-founding team. Statistically speaking, I can say, because I'm very involved here in France, that women-led businesses are better managed. So that's in terms of management, but also, here I'm talking to men saying, don't forget that. And at the same time, when you're a woman, very often in France, we talk about le syndrome de l'imposteur. So it leads to, I'd say, lack of confidence. So it sets back a lot of women as entrepreneurs, which is not the case. That's why it's very good to have a man on board, because it's a good mix of both. And also in terms of risk aversion, it's also important. And one strong advice in terms of fundraising, wherever the market, the profile of investors, any kind of audience, it's always good to have a man in the team, because whatever everyone can say, the investment world is still very biased. So that's one thing. Now, in terms of what kind of skills, I would say personal skills. First one is transparency. Be very transparent. From my personal experience, I would always say that if there's not a good feeling or personal fit together, I wouldn't advise it, because I mean, you're gonna be spending a lot of time together. So it's important to enjoy having them around. And one very important aspect is how much he or she is willing to put in terms of skin in the game, because I mean, a venture, there's a lot of risk, there's a lot of bumps, and if you're not going to put yourself out there as part of a team, I strongly wouldn't recommend that. I mean, you're not looking for a position, you're looking to build something from scratch.
Very good.
So, yes.
Liz, thank you. By the way, for those who are, both Liz and Sabah are in the process of raising funds. They both debt and equity. So in case you're interested, I'll be more than happy to put the connection. Liz is visiting Lebanon at the end of this month from Paris, spending 5 weeks. Sabah is here in Beirut. So for those of you who have an interest in meeting with them, understanding their business model, by all means, feel free to reach out and I'll be happy to make the connection. Liz, thank you so much. My last question I have to you before I continue is today the three co-founders are pretty much family, the three. Don't you think it would be the time to have another founder? I know you have co-investors that are non-family, but is there value in having as co-founders somebody that is non-family, that is more independent? What would be your take at this?
Definitely, of course. My experience for even before starting MAD or Create Emotions, because obviously there were in both of them, the founding partners were family or very close at least. I used to work at Murex, and I was head of marketing for several years, and I used to work with the founding team who were also family. And yet it was, as you might know, it's a huge success story, but it's a very big business as well. And the main founding team and decision makers are from the same family, but throughout the years, they added, I mean, they have a real board now, and they involve them very actively in the decision making. Now, it's hard to work with family. For me, it's always been hard because you have to mix that. And I come personally from a family of entrepreneurs. So I know the struggles. But yes, first of all, before even having a board in terms of official board, you can also, I mean, have a board of advisors, even if your business is small. Constantin, you're part of our advisors as well. So, and another member of our board of advisors is David Jiha. David is a TV producer, multi-Emmy Award TV producer. And in our case, it's very important because obviously he brings in 30 years of experience in the TV industry and a huge network in the US, so the leaders in entertainment. And of course, they have a complete different insight on coming from a channel and not from the web. And it's very important. But at the same time, it makes it easier because you kind of refrain yourself when you have someone external. So it's very good. It's very sane.
Very good. Liz, thank you very much. I wish you the best. We'll look
Thank
forward to catching
so
up
much.
with you when you're back here on it. So this is greatly appreciated. Thank you for sharing. Lanre from Nigeria expressed an interest in wanting to connect. So you'll follow up with Lanre directly. Very good. Look, Lanre asked a question on, because I used the words co-founder and co-founder. The co-founder is one who is founding the company with you. When Sabah decided to launch the company, she went and she reached out to Lara, and Lara is a co-founder. So both of them set up the company together, and they agreed to be the two that, instead of having one founder, they have co-founders. Now, Lara might be a co-investor or co-founder, or she might not be. In this case, she invested her time without salaries. So she was in some ways a virtual co-founder, but she might not have done it. She might have told Sabah, I want to have straight salary. I don't want to be a co-founder on it. So, but in most cases, your co-founder is at the same time your co-funder. Instead of funder, I say co-investor. So in most of the cases, like Lanre in your company, whoever founded it with you end up being a co-investor. But in some cases, you would have a co-founder without being a co-investor. Okay, so this is a bit the difference between the two, Lanre, and I hope I answered your question. Let me go back now to the slides. We have a few more minutes left. I just want to share with you some final thoughts on this. Do you see the slides? Sabah, do you see the slide? Anybody see the slides?
Yes, it's that. Yes.
We do?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, great. Thank you. Very good. So what we do is the recruitment process. So I've mentioned the interview. Now in the interview, clearly you need to look at the attributes, you need to look at the time, the passion, the track record, but most importantly, as I said, listen to what Liz has said, listen to what Sabah has said. It's really about transparency. It's really about to be able to open up. It's really about agreeing to disagree. And when we disagree, leave your ego outside. You know, it's not personal. We disagree. And in a number of times, it's difficult for the co-founders to leave to check their ego out. So this is quite important that you do this and spend the time to do the background check. It's important. It's a very important decision that you go through it. And in the interview, don't be the only one. If I'm in your position, I would ask 2 or 3 people to interview the person. People that you trust, people that have different perspective than your perspective. Don't have it as a one, you're the person interviewing. Have other either advisor, close friends, people who have experience in interviewing others, and have them also involved in the interview process. It would bring a different perspective, trust me. This even if they're not involved in the business, because each people would see, you know, some areas that you might not be aware of during the interview process. So make it holistic, make it as a 360-degree interviews. The more stakeholders you could put in, the better it would be for you in terms of the quality of this decision. Okay, what do I have as more slides before I take your question? Okay, so this is an example. We were looking for co-founders. So the first question is, what were the pain points that we had? So the pain point we had a pain point in terms of raising capital. So we needed to have someone from PE, means private equity, or coming from the investment banking world. So this is one area. So what is the pain point that you face? This is the first one. What are the challenges? What keeps you awake at night? What is allowing you, so risk those areas? This is what, so in our case, it was private equity. We also want somebody with a strategic mind. We were looking at expanding, changing our strategic direction. We wanted to have somebody who has a sound strategy mind. And there might not be the same profile. The strategy person and the private equity person might be different people. We also wanted to set an internal audit team. It was important. It was a big group, diversified group. We wanted to make sure that we have an audit committee, and we wanted to make sure that we have someone who could lead this audit committee. So this is quite important that we had. And lastly, we had some legal matters that need to be settled. We wanted to have legal person. So for each of those specialty, we had a rationale. And then we looked at possible backgrounds that we could find. And then we would look at our network, like I shared with you. So start with this. What are your pain points? Why do you think that this is a pain point? What you would like to have this person do on it? And what will be the possible background of this person? So this is one example. You'd create your own set in terms of deciding who the right co-founder or co-founders are, or who is the right co-investors or co-investors in this case. Okay, some of the best practices. I'll close with this slide and with a quote, and then we'll take the Q&A. And this is made of a summary. One is make sure that they check their ego out. Trust me, ego has caused a lot of damage in organization. And you need to get people who have the EQ to get their ego out of the picture. If not, you are in for a big problem. The second is that you need to discuss how you will deal with very difficult and adverse circumstances, and make sure that you could get alignment with the person, and make sure that you could together take very tough mitigation decisions. It's going to be heated. You know, when you have to fire half of your staff because of the situation that we have, we need to see eye to eye. when you want to get the right investor on board and the person feels that the investor is not the right person because of the value set, you need to be aligned. So some of these decisions are difficult. Discuss these decisions up front. Don't discuss them after. So put this and put it in like a role playing. You know, my son has been interviewed. He has been 3 years with JP Morgan. After 3 years, they make a round of interviews. This is Christophe, the younger son. And they put him in difficult role decisions. And they say, look, this is the case study. This is the, how would you handle it? Do the same thing. And he had about 10 different role plays that he had. And each of these role plays was very difficult customer situation, very difficult engagement. How would he act about it? What would be the question he would ask? How do we get resolution on it? Put these case studies for your co-founder and your co-investor. I think this is quite important. Find the co-founders who respect your personal time and share your personal value, also your dreams and your roadmap. Not always easy to find. Work with co-founders who understand the difference between disagreement and disrespect. We might disagree, but we're always respectful of each other. It doesn't mean if I don't take your point of view and I decide to do something completely different than what you have told me, that I'm going to leave the organization and feel. So this is quite important, and it's joined back the EQ and IQ balance. Ensure that you have the complementary skills. This is very important. Look at, for instance, Sabah and Lara, very different skill set. Liz, Rima, and Bruno, very different skill set that they have. The more diversity there is, not only in terms of skill set, in terms of gender, in terms of background, in terms of functional expertise, in terms of maybe geographical focus that you have, this diversity is excellent. The more diverse you are, the more creative this environment is, and the more it is for coming up with some great ideas. And the last one is you really need to know your co-founders. If you don't know them, do what my previous boss has done, is talk to the people that know me best. So each of these managers with whom I spent in some cases 10 years in some of the companies, he took the time and he spent at least an hour. And trust me, this guy is worth billions of dollars. And for him to take the time to reach out and discuss an hour and a half with each of the bosses, you need to do the same thing for your co-founders. Okay, so this is some of the learnings that I would like to share with you. The last quote is the co-founder or co-investor who does not work for the love and passion of work and the impact generated, but only for the financial return, is likely to neither make money nor find much fun and fulfillment in life. So this is a message to you and to whoever you're going to choose. At the end of the day, it's not about the compensation. It's not about the roles and responsibilities. It's about the alignment and the passion that this person has in the job, in the company, in life itself, that will make a difference. Take always this in mind. Always select the co-founder and co-investors who is passionate about your venture, passionate about working with you, and passionate about making a difference. This you will never fail. This is something that I want you to keep in mind. Passion is contagious, and you will need plenty of it during your scale-up journey. So this is what I want to leave you at. It's pretty much close to the end time. What I propose now is for the people who have questions to ask, feel free to ask those questions. And I put them on chat. I think it's the best way. So put on chat and I would respond to them in case you have questions. So I'm going to give you a few minutes, 1 or 2 minutes, in case you have questions and you would like to share it with the audience. Be happy to take it. As I said when I started, I live in Lebanon, so this is Joe, I develop a product. Do I need to validate in Lebanon because I'm not interested in selling it here? Okay, so I don't know who Joe is. It's not Joe Boulos clearly, so it's another Joe that is on the call. Joe is telling me, no, it's not him. You live in Lebanon, develop a product. Do I need to validate it in Lebanon because I'm not interested? Okay, you could validate it wherever you want. My recommendation is to validate it with the segments that is most relevant to your business. If it's in Cyprus or if it's in the US or if it's validated there. The thing is that it's difficult to validate it. If you're in one country and you want to validate it, you cannot do everything virtually. You need face-to-face discussion. And in some ways, it's better. We have worked with a number of companies where they validated in Lebanon and then they went overseas and expanded it. So validated in places where it makes sense, where you have your real customers that are there or potential customers, but also validated in a place where you could have also face-to-face contact, not only virtual contact. So this would be my recommendation. Patrick, for those that bring time to the table and not monetary investments, how would you value their input? Okay, this is very important. Now, Sabah did not discuss it, but we spend a lot of time with Sabah. Actually, we spend time also with Liz, because Liz, Rima, Bruno, and Sabah spend a lot of time. So the issue is when you spend time and you're not paid for the time, this is what the concept of sweat equity is. Sweat means you're sweating. So we give you equity for the work that you have done. So take the example of Sabah. She has worked, let's say, I'm assuming a salary that Sabah has been making $15,000 a month in her previous role. Today, she has decided to take only $1,000 a month in her salary. So there is $14,000 that she's forgone in terms of expense, in terms of salary. And this is, in my mind, as a future investor, this is what we call sweat equity. So this is money that she has put. She didn't put it into cash, but she put it into time. So all the time that she has spent, so we look at the time that she has spent from the moment she created the company to now, we would value this money, maybe not at 14,000, maybe we'll cut it by 2 because we need to align it with whatever we are paying other entrepreneurs that are founders. And this becomes sweat equity that she is something that she would value as if she has put money in. She did put money into the company, but she's also put time, and this time is perceived and accounted for like money. So this is the concept of sweat equity. So I hope I answered the question. Now, Joe, how to validate? Joe, you seem to have a lot of questions. I'll be happy to take them one-on-one. You validate, there is a process called design thinking. So if you have not been aware, you need to be aware of it. Joanna will be happy to, we run a number of seminars on design thinking. If your product is also related to either agriculture or related to clean technology or related to social enterprise, we have a number of accelerators that take you through what we call a hackathon. It's a 3-day event, 4-day event. We're running one next weekend from Thursday to Sunday. And there we have people coming in with, like you, with ideas, and we help them validate this idea. And they're surrounded with people like Joe, like others who are here as coaches or advisors. Patrick, can I say that the most attractive case scenario is to have 3 co-founders in a startup? Okay, no, the number of co-founders, I think at the end, it's 2, whether it's 3, Sabah was happy with 2, Liz is happy with 3. I would say 2 to 3 is a good mixture. Don't make too many because then it's going to be difficult. Try to go for an odd number because then you have somebody who could clarify in terms of the voting structure. Most importantly, state your pain points and trying to see who are the best people that you need to do to address it. Whether it's 2 or whether it's 3, it doesn't make a big difference at the end. Faraj, how to get advisors and what status will they have? Okay, the advisors, we have, for instance, I called for advisors. We got now close to 50 advisors because we are now embarking into several projects, and these projects would require business advisors. These are people that sit down with the company that we fund, and we had very good response on it. So we have a network, we have a roster of these business advisors. These are people that we have worked with. Sabah is an example. This is another example. They're not only entrepreneurs, they are advisors. You know, Joe, Hassan on the call, and other of you that are on the call are all business advisors, and we've been sitting on the board of your company, sitting on the board of other companies. So we have a roster of these advisors. If you are interested, we're now going to put them in terms of category, where are their focus, functional focus. Is it in scale up or is it in seed funding? So we have this list, reach out to us and we'll be happy to share the one that would make more sense to you. Do you recommend going to Kickstarter campaign? You can, at the end, you have to decide, Joe. You have to decide what you want to do on it. You have different initiatives. You have Kickstarter, you have accelerators. Liz went through accelerators, Sabah went through accelerators. So the accelerators could be 3 months, could be 6 months, could be 12 months. You have different accelerators. You have what we call these hackathons that are a good way to get a sense of what it is. So check your country, check what is available. In Lebanon, we have a fairly big ecosystem, which is currently operational despite the crisis, despite the this thing. Can you share an example of 2 of founder acts? Okay, the templates, you will get it. It was shared. If you need to send your request to Sheila. So in your evaluation form, Joanna, we need to send Sheila's email because a number of them have not registered and they will not be able to get the slides if they don't send the email to Sheila. So if you could be kind enough and share Sheila's email so that they could reach out to her and then get the questionnaire. And when they complete the questionnaire, they will get a copy. It would be great. So Joe, you will get it in the templates, and you'll get it in the slide set, and you'll get it also as a template. Kashif, Kashif, hello. I didn't know that you enjoyed this. I'm happy that you enjoyed it, Kashif. Well, we were on the board meeting with Kashif in Kenya a few days ago. Co-founders will possibly have other interests. Some of these perhaps not ideal for the business that we are founding. Whilst this brings diversity and broader idea to the table, can it not produce conflict and does? Okay, this is a very good point, Kashif. So it's at the end of the day, and you have a number of what we call serial entrepreneurs that would come up with completely different interests. At the end of the day, if you're a co-founder and you realize your co-founders is following and so many different initiatives, this is going to be very frustrating. This is why in your selection criteria, you need to make sure that the co-founders have the time, have the focus, and have the availability to be able. If not, this is going to generate frustration. And the last thing you want is to see that the person is not focusing on what the company needs and is not spending the time that is needed. And this is something that could be an issue. So somebody has unmuted the call, so I don't know if it's to ask a question or not. Let me continue with the questions. Joanna has shared Sheila El Bourgi, so this is, you have it. If you want to have a copy of this, you need to send an email, refer to the webinar. She will send you the questionnaire, you complete the questionnaire, and then she will send you the copy of the slides and the copy of the template. I have a working corporate. This is great, Joe. Look, Joe, we need to have a one-to-one discussion. I think this is important. Share it. You have Sheila's email. She will establish a contact and set up a meeting for you. Patrick, please share some light on critical content of shareholder agreement. Okay, the shareholder agreement builds on the Founders Act. It is not the Founders Act. Look at business matters. You've listed these business matters. The shareholder agreement will look at some business matters, but would look at completely different set of other matters, legal matters, financial matters, you know, how many times you're going to have a board, who are going to be the board, what is your responsibility. So you're going to have a number of others. So it's very different. We had already a session on shareholder agreement and term sheets. We could run a second one. So if you're interested, you could at least attend. The webinar is available. The recording of the webinar is available. You link with Sheila, she will send you a copy of the link to the webinar on term sheet negotiation. Okay, Joe, I have applied to almost 20 accelerators, none of them accept my pick. So if none of them have accepted, you have a problem, Joe. So I don't know if the problem is your idea, with your product. So so this is, the first is don't give up, continue on it, trying to find out why they didn't accept you, understand what are the gaps and being able to address them. Patrick, hi Constantine, please share some light on critical, okay, so this is addressed. Charles, hi Constantin, what is a logical time frame to evaluate and decide if a co-foundership is working and if it should continue? Okay, you don't need a template for this. You will sense it immediately. It's in relationship that you have, being it, you know, Sabah was very, you will sense it right away. Now, if you, typically what we do is, I'm involved also with shareholders in different companies that I work with and in the family matters. And when there are, you realize when you have the discussions, because we have an agenda, which is of course aligning the shareholders to whatever is a strategic direction and priorities. And if we realize that there is a misalignment, then there is a way to be able to bridge the gap, understand what is the gap, understand why do we have the gap, and trying to find out together on ways to bridge the gap. Because if trust is broken, you have a big issue. So we always need to focus on the trust element behind, okay? So, so this is it, Kashif. Thank you, Noor, trustful platform and co-founders. Okay, so to find co-founder, okay, it's a good one, Noor. Noor, you have different platform. First, we have Business Angels, as you know. This is Cedars. It's part of I Am Capital. Ghassan Kozah is part of it. I'm part of it. We have others here on the call that are part of it. So here you have a number of business angels that invest not only jointly, but also invest individually. So this is a good start. So to get the list of these business angels, this is through Cedar. This is one. The other one is IDAL is putting this platform. This is a platform, IDAL is part of the, Sabah, correct me, but it's, I think it's, it belongs directly to the Prime Minister office. It's a platform that will connect people like you who have an idea with investors or co-founders. So they have a list of these co-founders, and they have a list of companies who are interested in either getting funding or getting a co-founder to work with them, and they do the matching. So they will be launching it in July, August. The lady in charge is Amira, but you could Google it. It's IDAL, I-D-A-L. This is a good source. So Cedar with the Business Angels, IDAL is another good source that you have behind it. Joanna, to receive a recording, please send an email to Sheila. She has sent it. Can I have one-on-one discussion with you? Yeah, you can, of course. You could reach out to me. My WhatsApp number is 79185-166. So for those outside the country, it's 961-79185-166. It would be, this is great. Look, we reached the end. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your questions. Thank you to Sabah and to Liz for your contribution. Much appreciated. Apologize again on behalf of Berytech for the screw up in terms of the voicemail. I don't know who TG was, but I'll give him a hard time next time I talk to him. And have a wonderful week, and I look forward to catching up. We have those webinars on a weekly basis, and Joanna will be sharing those with you if you're on the list. Lanre, all the best. Joe, all the best, and we'll be in touch with many of you. God bless and stay safe. Thank you.